The development and evolution of media technology has led to the expansion of human communicative possibilities. In facilitating the distribution of ideas, further technological innovations are made possible, resulting in a sort of symbiotic or even parasitic dynamic between communication media and those who create and depend upon it. Emerging media, such as augmented reality, are able to introduce virtual elements into physical environments, complicating the way in which reality may be perceived, understood, and experienced in relation to the world. Speculative fiction is a useful way to consider the implications of such developments, and to bring these conversations outside of academic spaces through imaginative representations of existence and potential versions of reality. This project offers a tentacular approach to storytelling in the form of a non-linear, atemporal, and multisensory experiential reality narrative, which animates an assemblage of ideas in a fictional context. This framework focuses on the potential of speculative fiction to affect change beyond the narrative space, reaching out into other parallel realities by provoking meaningful consideration of technological advancements and their influence on the world, how the world is understood, and by whom it is experienced. The construction of this thesis is intended to reflect the mosaic-like approach of assemblage, bringing together fragments of ideas from various types of media, reaching out in different spatial and temporal directions, yet all coming together to form a single entity. Tentacular embodiment. In reference to evolutionarily advanced cephalopods, describes forms of perception alternative to the human experience, a representational other which comprehends the world by reaching out in various directions to simultaneously process that which it encounters. Experiential reality, speculatively proposed term for the next iteration of media technology, advancing beyond the audio-visual elements of virtual reality and augmented reality to activate other sensory responses and minimize the dissonance between the virtual and the user's experience of reality. Assemblage refers to the collage-like approach of piecing together various fragments to construct a broader image or representation, typically applied to sculptural works, extrapolated to include transmedia elements such as written documents, videos, audio, and the virtual. As technology continues to develop and blur the lines between the physical and the virtual, it is increasingly difficult to define what should be considered to be real and to whom this notion of reality applies. AR offers a way to draw virtual content out into the physical world, less of a gateway to bring humans into the virtual world, and more of a mechanism to bring the virtual into the human world. The headset device is compiled from a Z Mini camera which uses two lenses optimized for AR pass-through video, with the Leap Motion hand tracking sensor allowing for intuitive interaction without handheld controllers attached to an Oculus Rift S VR headset. This device is an assemblage pieced together to create a single unit wearable solution which allows for an immersive and intuitive experience akin to what will likely be available in the near future. As this distinction between reality and virtuality dissolves, the prospect of experiential reality as a new medium begins to corporealize. Each component of the experience was necessarily worked on separately but simultaneously, with decisions made in each aspect correlating to respective changes in the others. Each piece functions independently as a fragment, compounding to construct an assemblage that extends beyond the virtual. Instigation. To begin this engagement, the user must symbolically make a decision to instigate the experience. This is not so much a beginning to the interaction, but more of a prodding to awaken it. Tentacles. The core of the experience is represented by a series of tentacles which become more active as the user engages with various interactions. Creature. This is a direct reference to Frankenstein's monster, who has lived on in the public consciousness as an imaginative abomination, crudely pieced together from innumerable embodiments, brought to life by means of electricity. Determinacy. This interaction is meant to prompt consideration of whether a puppet is commanded by the actions of the one pulling the strings, or if the actions of the puppet dictate the movements of the metaphorical puppeteer, and what might be the consequences of cutting the strings. Manifesting fiction. A book rises from the ground, revealing an image of Cthulhu. A 3D rendering of the image emerges from the page as a literal depiction of fictional works manifesting in the real world from the perspective of those who engage with it. Media evolution. This brief interaction is meant to be reminiscent of the evolution of media and how information is accessed, Formats such as VHS tapes and floppy disks keep discrete pieces of information separate from the device on which they are displayed. However, such methods are becoming increasingly redundant with the rise of cloud storage. Nervous systems, juxtaposing modes of perception and ways of processing sensory inputs, including the technology stack used to create this experience. These elements are overlaid, then separated to contrast these alternative means of perception. Perception. This scene is meant to evoke the subjectivity of perception. Reproduction. A LiDAR scan of a masked person wearing the headset and two hands appear. The animated scan emerges from the user as a virtual reflection. Virtual space. Simply a sphere with a plain black material applied, placed around the user's head, creating an interesting effect engulfing the user in virtual space. By allowing occlusion from the user's hands, the physical environment is able to peek through, emphasizing the isolating effect. The iterative research creation process of this thesis has allowed the conceptual aspects, technical considerations, original art assets, fictional narrative, and contextualization to recursively build upon one another. Rather than providing answers to the proposed research questions, this thesis project has served to emphasize them. How might a speculative approach to augmented reality inform the narrative possibilities and design affordances of a nonlinear storytelling experience? There are seemingly endless ways in which speculation can inform storytelling and interaction decisions in AR or any medium, making this a valuable question to continuously revisit. How is the concept of tentacular embodiment useful as a narrative model or as a metaphor for emerging modes of perception alternative to the human perspective? As an adaptive, shape-shifting form, the cephalopod structure managed to contort itself to fit more aspects of this project than could have been foreseen. What could have been a fleeting concept became a powerful metaphor that proves to be exceptionally useful. What are the implications of experiential reality on the dynamic between humans, the virtual, consciousness, and perception? With the impending potential of AR ubiquity, the virtual and physical are likely to become increasingly intertwined with the user's experience of reality. The unpredictability of how this will unfold makes this dynamic worth considering further. Are works of speculative fiction effective in altering how reality is understood and experienced? Imaginative explorations of potential trajectories are useful ways to work through the implications of burgeoning technology and prompt discourse without necessarily offering conclusive resolutions. Like the first creature born of speculative fiction, this speculative creation has been stitched together and taken on a life of its own, a sprawling, tentacular entity with the agency to reach out and manifest in the user's experience of reality. As virtual representations of fictional creations develop in complexity and become more integrated into physical environments, they may depend less on their audience to have an active presence in the world. Even as human consciousness progresses further into the virtual, these constructed, immaterial creatures may eventually manifest as fully realized others, co-inhabiting reality.